hope you're doing well. Welcome back to another video. This is my March wrap up. I ended up reading 13 books in March, 11 physically and 2 audibly, and I just thought I would tell you about them. I mean, I'm gonna say it because I say it on every video, but I'll try and be quick. Will I? I don't know. First, I read My Mother Says by Stein Pilgaard, translated from Danish by Hunter Simpson. For more information about quite a lot of these books, they're from my Bookish World Cup and also the Transrights Readathon later on, so direct you to those videos if you want to know more about them. But it's basically just following a woman who breaks up with her girlfriend, and then she just sort of has like conversations with her like mum, dad, her ex, her friend, and other people as well, like a doctor, and it's sort of about people like talking over each other instead of with each other, and it's just like her just sort of like trying to recalibrate her life and get on with it in a way. And yeah, I enjoyed this quite a lot. I can't remember star ratings now, but I think it was maybe about a 4.25 or something like that, or maybe a 4. But yeah, I did like this and I would recommend it. Then I read Chronicle of a Death Foretold by Gabriel Garcia Marquez, translated from Spanish by Gregory Rabassa. I didn't like this. I gave this 2 stars. It's basically following a person, like a man, that is thinking back to the time when his, not friend per se, but just someone that he sort of knew, Santiago Nassar, was murdered by these 2 brothers in a small Colombian town, and trying to like piece together Santiago's last day with like sort of interview-ish sort of things, but not really with people, and just trying to like work it into together. Yeah, I didn't really like this. I think like all the characters just sort of blended into the same person. They all rehashed the same idea. I didn't really like the writing or the translation, I guess, that much. I'm gonna give him another try because I think I have some more by him, but I'm not like in a rush because it just didn't do anything for me really. Kate Moss's Warrior Queens and Quiet Revolutionaries: How Women Also Built the World. I loved this. This was so good. It took me a long time to get through because it is quite dense, and it's like, this is like non-fiction, like it's not like a memoir or anything, which I don't really ever read much, but this was amazing. She gives you nearly 1,000 women throughout history and across the world, their names and like what they did and like what they were the first in and things like that, and it covers many facets of life, like education, law, the home, what else, science, also like actual like warriors and pirates and soldiers. I thought this was really good, and you like reading about these people and like you just like you want to learn more about them and like carry on researching, and there's also like loads of like times where there's like a quote by that person and stuff. It's just like an example of 2 and stuff. Yeah, so that's like one part of the book which was great, because so many women's lives and their impacts and what they have done have been lost from history and been overshadowed, or the credit given to the men at the time, and historians looking back sort of don't focus their attention on the women of the past, so it's continuously being forgotten and not given the recognition that they deserve. But in here, it's not comprehensive, of course. It's not like I don't think you can, because of what I said, so many histories have been lost, but I think she does a really great job, and it just covers so much breadth that there is a lot that you can just find interesting. And yeah, I really enjoyed this. And it also talks about like a pendulum like swinging back and forth, and how even though rights may come, they can be taken away so easily, and specifically like the Roe v. Wade case in America, yeah, so other points of contemporary society as well in this book. Yeah, so that's one part of the book, which is primarily it, but also Moss is thinking about her great grandmother Lily Watson, who was a quite renowned author during the time in like the, I want to say 1800s, sort of going into 1900. I'm not, yeah, about then. And she didn't know this about her great grandmother, like, at all. And nobody really knows of her anymore, or like her books and how she was quite acclaimed. So she does this sort of like detective-ish mission, trying to find out more about her great grandmother and her life, and like looking at like old letters and things like that. And yeah, I really enjoyed those parts as well. And just overall, I think it was just really good, and it perfectly did what it set out to do. And I would so recommend it. Million Aunties by Alicia Mackenzie. I really enjoyed this. I think I gave this maybe about like a 4.5-ish stars. It's just following different people as they're like in Jamaica and America and also Europe. And like grief is quite a prominent motif, and also just like art. They're all most of them are like artists, and they talk about like their love of art and things like that. And it's just a really pleasant read despite some of the topics, and just about like community and how like you might lose someone but like you gain other people as well. And yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and it was just such a really pleasant reading experience. The French entry was The Lover by Marguerite Duras. This is translated by Barbara Bray. I didn't like this. I gave this 2 stars. I just think it was very messy. I didn't really like what was going on in it, and yeah, it didn't really make much sense. The lover aspect in the storyline takes the back burner to the author, and well, the sort of unnamed main character who is sort of the author, and her relationship with her mother and abusive older brother. And it's not clear if like they are mentally unstable or she is. And yeah, it's just quite messy, and like goes back and forth. And then like there's a bit near the end where in her relationship as a young white French girl with an older Chinese like businessman, and she sort of becomes this like child character. And like there's a certain bit right in the end where like she's right, he took her like he'd take his own child or something like that. It's not exactly direct quote, and I was just like, why did you write that? That is disgusting. Like, no, I didn't like it at all. Really messy, ugly, horrible. I didn't like it. Some of the writing is actually good, but like that's the sheer saving grace. 2 stars. Same 2 stars to The Godmother by Hannah Law Kerr. This is translated by Stephanie Smee from French. I didn't like this. Follows a translator from Arabic in France, like drug trafficking and other like criminal activity, and then she gets in the possession of a large amount of Moroccan drugs, and she starts sort of like becomes this godmother character, and like goes on from there. Yeah, I didn't like this. I didn't like the characters. You're sort of meant to feel for her a little bit, but I just didn't care at all. She's just not a very nice person, especially the way she thinks about her mother, and just some like other things that she did is just I don't know, it's just, I didn't like it at all. Also like makes like drug dealing quite like a reputable career, which clearly it's not, and it doesn't talk anything about like the actual horrors and bad parts about drugs and addiction problems like that. So yeah, I would not recommend this. It only won over France because it is better plotted, and it isn't a whole thing that's just quite messy. But yeah, I would not recommend that at all. Then I read Nimona by N.D. Stevenson. This is a nice graphic novel. I think I gave this about 4 stars. It's following Nimona, who is like a shapeshifter, and they want to become the sidekick to Ballister Blackheart, something like that, who is like the super villain as he's going up against the Institute of Law Enforcement and Heroics, and their sort of like main guy is him, Ambrosius Goldenloin, and it's sort of about like are the good people really doing the good stuff, or like what? And yeah, it's sort of like some backstory as well, and yeah, I enjoyed it. I think the artwork is quite nice. I do prefer sort of more like curved and like artwork, like Heartstopper themed, I guess, but it was still decent enough. I did enjoy it and I would recommend it. Then I read this, which an AI recommended to me, Autobiography by Christina Lauren. I really enjoyed this actually. I think I gave this maybe about like a 4.25 stars. I don't usually read longer romances. This is just over 400 pages. I feel like 300 is sort of my cutoff that I'm like interested in. But that being said, throughout the book it is well paced, and at each point I was still here for it and interested and wanted to carry on and continue like what was happening. Yeah, it's basically following Tanner, who is bi, and he is living in Provo, Utah. He recently moved, not recently, like 3 years ago or something, with his family from California, and he had to sort of like go back into the closet. So he's just waiting to like finish high school so he can go to college out of state and like to freedom, basically. But in his like this writing workshop thing, like an advisor who got a book deal the previous year, because you have to write a book in a like 6 months or something like that, 3 months maybe, I don't know. Sebastian brother, and he is like a Mormon like golden boy. He's also the pastor or like priest's son, and they sort of like our relationship sort of blossoms and we move on from there. I don't want to say too much about it, but yeah, I think it was really good. And I also loved the way like it talked about like religion, especially the Mormon religion, and like the good parts and bad parts. It didn't seem like one-sided, and yeah, I really like these two characters. They had a lot to them, and also Tanner's dad, I just think, was such a good dad, and the way he treated and respected his son, and talking about like topics that do need to be talked about in like a very mature way, and not just like having a queer son, but just like just a child, and yeah, I just think he was just a very, very good character, and I really liked him. And yeah, I would so recommend this, and I would like to check out something by her. Also, like by them actually, I didn't know it was like 2 women. I thought it was just 1 person, but you learn something new every day. Also, this cover is so beautiful. It's like sort of the bi-ish flag colours, and like the books, that's like a prominent thing, and also like a mountain at the top of it. And just, yeah, I think this cover is such a great design. Good. Then I read books for my trans rights readathon, so check out that video for more about them. But the first I finished was Ponyboy by Elliot Duncan. This follows the titular character as they're in Paris, Berlin, and then back into Iowa. It's him sort of struggling with like trans longing, and in a relationship with a woman who is quite unprepared to accept his trans identity because she doesn't want to be in a straight relationship, and also just like him coming to terms with who he is, and just sort of like, yeah, the aches and pains of becoming who you are meant to be. That is some storyline, but I think the prominent one is his struggle with addiction, drug and alcohol, and him like constantly trying to attain a high every single day, and how it's just an all-consuming nature, and just like it's basically his whole personality. For just over half the book, it does get repetitive and it is very messy, but you do feel for him, and you get the sense that how the horrors of his addiction problems, and then it leaves enough time for the reconstruction. There's not a spoiler because it says on the back, and him getting better, and yeah, I do think overall it was quite a good book. I think it's maybe about a 3.75 star rating. I would recommend it. I would love to read something else by him, but personally it was maybe a little bit too much of the drug taking and sexual content and things like that I don't really like reading, but I do think it was still a decent enough read. I would recommend it. Then I listened to Gender Explorers by Juno Roach. I'm probably going to give this, maybe about a 5-star as well. For what it set out to do, I think it perfectly did that. Roach basically does these interviews at Mermaids and Gender Intelligence, which are 2 UK trans charities, with young gender explorers and trans umbrella children and teens. And they basically just ask them, like, how they are, like how they identify, what they've done like previously to get to where they are now and where they want to go forward, and their like hopes and aspirations for the future, and also like the struggles and the hurdles they've had to overcome. But I just think it was just done so well, and I just loved reading these while listening to them. People they spoke to were just so lovely and wholesome, and it's so like heartwarming, and they're just such beautiful individuals, and it just shows that like we aren't making children trans, we're not forcing them to it, they just know themselves. And I just think it was just great, and I really enjoyed it, and I would so recommend that book. Then I read Call Me Nathan by Catherine Castro and Quentin Zouton. She's translated from French by Evan McGorry. This I gave about a 3-star rating. I read All Princesses Die Before Dawn by Quentin Zouton last year. I thought that was really good, but it was a bit too short. But he is the artist, and I do think his art is just so like nice. I really like love the colors, and just I just think he's just so talented. But I guess this reads a little bit like a trans memoir, in that it follows the main character Nathan as he's coming to terms with the fact that he is trans, and what he has to overcome and do to attain the, not necessarily fully the body that he wants, but also the way society treats him, and his like relationship with his friends and family. But he seems very personal and quite raw, and I feel like this would have been better being told by a trans person. And there's also some scenes that sort of show like a mutilation aspect, which I don't know if that was, I don't know, I didn't really know how to feel about it. But I guess I would recommend it, because over the whole it is a decent enough read, and it's all well put together, and it talks about the struggles but also the joy of living as a trans person. I'm not too sure, to be honest. And ultimately I listened to Skin by Kerry Andrew. I think I'm going to give this about 4.5 or 4.75 star rating. I really enjoyed this. This is basically 2 parts and an epilogue, even though it says 3 on the description. But it's following Matty in 1985, and their dad goes missing. So they're like, well, I want to find out what's happened. And they go to like the Hampstead and Highgate ponds, and there they find a love for swimming and water is a prominent motif throughout, like the beauty of it and the freedom it gives you, but also the dangers and bad parts about his power, I guess. His like relationship with their mother Rosa, who is an Italian person, and their father Joe was Irish, and her sort of like not necessarily breakdown, but it's just a very tense like home environment for them, and it's just struggles basically. And then it goes to 1999, and Matty is traveling through Ireland trying to find Joe because they've got some more information, and they're swimming in different locks and just trying to visit the nature and stuff. It's done quite well. But then a big snap decision happens, not their decision, but something happens, and they're put in a very bad predicament. And I think the way Andrew went about this sort of like the quickness of something can just be just like that, and then just explodes, and like it would not have happened, like wrong place wrong time sort of scenario. But then Matty gets the help of someone, and it's just sort of like moving forward like that. And yeah, I think it was just done very well. I really enjoyed it. I think the writing was good. I also, like, as a North Londoner, I know the places in the book and I understand the geography of it, which I just enjoyed. And yeah, it also, I guess, it sort of talks about being a trans person and Matty's gender and sexuality, but not that much. Like, it's not the focus. And I guess as the book goes along, you sort of understand things that happened previously worked and what they were actually trying to say or mean, because you might be a little bit confused, but then as you go on, you understand it and things just like click in place. And yeah, I really enjoyed that aspect, and I would so recommend that book. So yep. Then finally I finished with Pet by Akweke Emezi. This follows a young trans girl called Jam, and she lives in the city of Lucille, where there are no monsters anymore because after the revolution these angels got rid of them. And she's with her friend Redemption, and then this character called Pet comes into her life, and Pet is there to hunt monsters, but she's like, well, there isn't anymore, but he's like, well, there are. Really just enjoyed the way Emezi talked about like pressing topics, but in like a subtle way, and I guess maybe with only an older brain you can fully understand it, but I think they did it well. And it talks about how, like, however much you want something to be true, that doesn't make it true or not true, and to talk to children about these bad things in a direct way to stop them from happening, and to protect them. And yeah, I think it was good. I think it started like very well, and I was really intrigued. It maybe lost me a little bit as it went along, but I still think it was good, and overall it was a very decent book, about a 4-star rating. And yeah, I would really recommend that. I think it was a decent enough month. Obviously I had a few duds, but some good ones as well. And yeah, hope you enjoyed today's video, and I shall see you soon. Bye.